Diaspora engagement encounters multiple obstacles such as poor coordination, communication barriers, and limited grasp of the diaspora's needs. These challenges impede the efficient mobilization of diaspora resources for development and humanitarian initiatives. Strengthening diaspora engagement is our focus on this segment, and Sunday Beatrice, President, Zumunta Association USA Incorporated, will speak to us. Mr. Beatrice, thank you so much for joining us on Insights.
Thank you very much.
All right, navigating legal and immigration issues, complex and often stressful aspect of our life for Nigerian diaspora. Over the years, how have you been able to handle these issues? Let's begin the conversation from there.
No, thank you for this opportunity. The nature of diaspora engagement so far and globally, particularly the Nigerian diaspora, is an activity that actually requires deliberate effort and consistent and persistent engagement with the members of the diaspora. And so far, what we have been able to see, for example, leading a diaspora group, I've gotten to note that it is important for an effective level of collaboration and partnerships with the agencies, for example, that are responsible for managing this diaspora engagement. But it also takes a willingness of the leaders of such diaspora groups globally to want to engage with them. But it also requires a two-way kind of synergy for you to be able to achieve that. For us, we've been able to achieve that because we normally, for example, will travel out, come into Nigeria to engage with these government officials, go back and engage with our counterparts in other associations or other diaspora groups, talk to the Nigerian embassies, to the Nigerian consulates, to have our ears on the ground with regards to what is happening. So that's been an effective approach for us, and we thought that's going to be a strategy that could be further harnessed so that we can get something more effective in terms of engagement.
Okay, most Nigerians would like to know, of course, when we talk about diaspora, people outside the country,
yes,
people that have migrated from Nigeria to other parts of the world. In what areas do you engage? In what areas do you see to the needs of persons that have moved from Nigeria to a particular nation?
As you know, with human beings, every human being has his own or her own form of identity that they would like to either preserve or continue to enhance. As a result, smaller groups want to always come together so that they can share what they normally share, for example, back at home. If it is, for example, a Hausa community, maybe there is the Salah period is there. They want to break bread together. They want to enjoy family and all that comes along with it. We ensure that those identities are not lost within the larger scope of things, because we've met many people who have been living, for example, abroad, and they have not been to Nigeria, or they don't recall things that is happening in Nigeria for a long time. They don't return home. But we try to make sure that we establish that connection and people remember what is going on at home, to remember the struggles of their family members and what they may have also encountered. So we provide an avenue for that level of engagement, that camaraderie, that brotherliness, and stuff like that. But again, that doesn't mean that we take up the responsibility of the Nigerian embassy, for example, or the Nigerian consulate, as the case might be. Okay. And we always try to make sure that we divert any question that is outside the scope of even the Nigerian embassies to the appropriate quarters. For example, if in the United States, for example, if you're dealing with visa-related issues, we try to make sure that we connect you with an immigration lawyer so that they can work together with you. And in other instances where we know that, for example, if there's a Nigerian embassy that's supposed to assist, for example, when somebody passes away, we try to have point of contact regularly with the Nigerian consulates and embassies, so we can refer them and they can provide any kind of assistance they need. So at that level, we kind of understand what we need to be doing and what we shouldn't be doing, and we refer people to the right places. So that's the level of engagements we do have on a regular basis.
Okay, I noticed you didn't mention NIDCOM. So how have you been working with NIDCOM?
Yes, so in terms of NIDCOM, engaging with them from the Nigerian front, getting information, say if we're coming to Nigeria, we're coming to invest in Nigeria, NIDCOM is our secretariat. We normally engage with them, with the chairman, the secretary, and other members of staff that they may have assigned to us. We work with them very, very closely in terms of the activities that we need to do, because there are challenges associated with the fact that you may not have lived in Nigeria for a while. When you return, the terrain may have changed. NIDCOM is the agency that allows us to, hey, go here, don't go to the other place. So they are very instrumental in terms of the work that we do on a day-to-day basis. And they've always encouraged us for the most part, and we engage with them at that level by making sure that, one, if someone is coming into Nigeria, we ask them to go to NIDCOM first when they arrive Nigeria, so that they can get both that in terms of guidance. They are more like the diaspora orientation agency, I'll put it that way. But I think they do a whole lot more than that. But that, in a nutshell, that's how we engage with NIDCOM.
Okay. Prior to this conversation, I spoke with the president of Nigerian community in Côte d'Ivoire. And there's a particular issue which each nation faces, irregular migration. How do you deal with Nigerians who migrated irregularly?
Well, it's a phenomenon that we obviously cannot run away from. It's a global phenomenon. But for the most part, what we do is to identify those who are, again, a lot of people wouldn't even want to let you know that they have migrated illegally. But once we eventually get to know about that, we try to talk to them to engage with a lawyer, because it is extremely an unpleasant experience to be living in a country where you have irregular working papers or living papers, because it becomes extremely difficult. We partner with organizations. For example, I know that there is an organization in Washington, D.C. that supports some of this level of engagement by engaging pro bono lawyers, immigration lawyers, who assist them in filing the appropriate papers so that they'll be able to work under regular circumstances. Some people don't want to share their information with you. They would rather try to deal with their problems by themselves, simply because they might be feeling threatened that somebody might come and forcefully deport them. Of course, we know what's going on, for example, in the United States as an area of focus right now. So that is, those are some of the key examples in terms of what we do as a group to identify these people, know their challenges, provide them with counsel. But again, we actually don't ask them to rely on what we provide, because there are legal implications to it. So it's better for us to connect them with lawyers that would help them through the process.
Okay, so let's talk about barriers to investment and remittances, these issues.
Well,
because every time you talk to a Nigerian outside the country, either in China, US, UK, they always bring up the issue of investments and remittances.
Yes. I've been privy to engage with many people, foreign nationals, who know Nigeria very well. And most of my engagement with them is usually, they're usually concerned about the perception of the country. Right. So there is a perception problem that we have, and we have to deliberately work on that to ensure that, and what we do regularly as well is to kind of project what we experience as individuals. For example, I can tell you that I think over the course of this year, at least I've been to Nigeria already a couple of times. And after my return, I would normally encounter someone who is trying to talk to me about Nigeria, who is trying to talk to me about wanting to come and invest in Nigeria, but they don't understand the terrain. So just give everyone a sense that, okay, one, Nigeria is safe. Nigeria is also a safe haven for you to invest, and that the story you hear about a few bad apples doesn't reflect the reality of over 200 million people, right? So we kind of really emphasize that, and we also want to be able to document what we are doing right now. For example, in Nigeria, take those stories back and say, hey, we went to Nigeria, we finished our program, we were safe, nobody had any issue, but also to engage with say, for example, in this case, specifically with Nasarawa State, right? They have created an avenue that would allow investors to come in and invest safely. So that is an example. And part of why we're doing this is deliberate, to just showcase this is one example of a success story that is on the ground that can give investors confidence to come in. But I think there's also additional work that the federal government of Nigeria needs to do, is to also engage diasporans as ambassadors that will continue to project this image and to facilitate them coming in with people that will continue to come and see the reality on the ground. The narrative is different out there, but the reality is completely different here. So we need to be able to bring the two together and make sure that one, which is the truth, eliminates that which is the lie.
So how do we change this narrative? Because it's a great issue, especially investments.
There are multiple government agencies that are already in place to facilitate that. But for the most part, especially when it comes to diaspora and engagement, our engagement so far has been with NIDCOM. So for example, we're talking with NIDCOM. If we meet NIDCOM, NIDCOM is our go-between that would link us up with any other government agency that would facilitate the piece of work that we need to do in a clear, fair, and transparent manner. That in itself I can attest to. And based on my engagement so far with both the chairman and with the executive secretary, pretty much everything and everyone that I have engaged with, that has engaged with them, have had a pleasant experience because they have been very forthright and straightforward about what needs to be done. But the bad narrative normally comes in when people come into the country without engaging the right sources. If you don't engage the right sources, you can be rest assured that you will fall into the hands of criminals. And these criminals are not just only, you don't find them in Nigeria. Go to the most developed world, you can still fall in the hands of criminals who will swindle you 100%, and you will still live there with some bad narrative. But again, I dare say that the media in Nigeria also has a critical role to play. We have to sell Nigeria as heaven. And that is the major responsibility I believe the media also has to play in terms of the work that we need to do. But engage with the diasporans, help coordinate with groups like ours and others. There are several other prominent groups who do a lot of things. Some of them are socio-cultural like ours. Others are professional groups of Nigerians who have leaders who are reputable in terms of the work that they do on a day-to-day basis. If we can coalesce those groups of people, they will become your ambassadors that can be empowered to carry the story of Nigeria even to greater heights.
Even to greater heights. You've said so much about investments and opportunities abounding, but let's talk about diaspora engagement policies.
Yes.
These policies, do they really protect Nigerians? And how do they work? Let's hear from you.
In terms of diaspora protection, I would say that there are lots of opportunities that we have that we can further enhance the work that we do on a day-to-day basis. Say, for example, if, for example, the Nigerian Diaspora Commission wants to be able to engage with people, again, there is a policy that involves engagement. What are the mechanisms that they're putting in place, for example, to harness some of the professional skills that we have, that we're bringing to the table? A lot of us have gone out there and have earned skills that would be able to transform our nation. Again, when you look at the good story of the diaspora who have gone back to their countries all around the world, you would be able to see clearly that they had a deliberate diaspora policy and diaspora engagement. Then, of course, you need to be able to establish a level of credibility where someone knows that, okay, if I put my name in a specific place, it will not be sold to some marketers somewhere, or whatever the case might be. Or if I invest my 15 naira somewhere in a fund, that money is going to be saved and it will not be used for some other projects. Those are the kinds of engagement, because our people have now, especially those who have left Nigeria or the diasporan community, they are very wise right now. They know exactly what needs to be done. And part of the reason why they can sit out there and proffer solutions to you. But again, in terms of that level of engagement, one of the key things I normally say, and I say this to my diaspora counterparts, come to Nigeria yourself and have that understanding so that you can bridge the gap between reality and what should be, right? So for the most part, people think, okay, I experienced this in Europe, I should experience it in Nigeria. It is possible, but there is a gap, there is a process, there is a piece of work that needs to be done for that gap to be closed.
Now, talking about safe spaces for Nigerians outside the country to thrive and then in return contribute to the growth of the nation. What I'm asking you as a diaspora now, you are one of them. You live in the US. Now, how can the government, especially this present administration, help the diaspora communities to contribute to their home countries fully?
Because we experience certain level, and I'm just going to take, for example, an example of banking, just as a general example. The level of fluency and coordination that we have when it comes to banking, for example, in the diaspora, it goes a long way in helping us to understand that, okay, if I come to Nigeria, my banking experience should be smooth and seamless, right? Or, for example, right now, another area that I could say, for example, the government of Nigeria needs to be able to give the diaspora some level of confidence, for example, is in the area of information protection.
Okay.
I know that there are regulations associated with that, but the question is it being enforced in a way that they can feel confident to go into NITCOM website, for example, and type in their information, right? And know that that information is safe and is actually enforceable, for example. And I'm saying this mainly, okay, for example, because in my case, this is an area of specialization on a day-to-day basis. And you're trying to make those recommendations. You always find the gap between what ought to be and what is really existing, and how you can close those gaps together.
Well, I want to believe while you're outside the country, there's so much to be told, stories to be told about Nigeria, her cultural heritage, who we are, our identity. In terms of cultural identity, how have you been promoting this to ensure that people don't lose their roots or don't just neglect where they are coming from, and some cultures don't go into extinction?
Well, in terms of cultural identity in the diaspora, and as part of the diasporan efforts that we normally put in place, is to, first and foremost, for the most part, you find that those who are a little bit older appreciate Nigerian culture, or as the case is. You find that a lot of the younger generation, the second, third generations that are born outside America, for example, are the ones that really don't appreciate Nigerian culture. Maybe, again, because of the kind of perception or the kind of stories that goes along with it. Every year, at least, we gather and celebrate our culture. That means you get to see your brothers and your sisters. You all dress in your traditional attire, just the way I am dressed right now.
Of course.
Just to make sure that we don't lose track of that. Again, apart from just the way I'm dressed right now, we also try to ensure that we have some of those cultural display. And I think that it will be imperative for the government, for example, despite the fact that the Nigerian embassies is for that particular purpose, to at the very least create a specific section where they would display cultural artifacts from Nigeria. So even if our young people, or the second, third generations of Americans that are from Nigeria, they can go there and get to have a sense for what these things really are. But right now, we're mainly dependent on individual entrepreneurs who come to Nigeria and get some of these things and bring them back to display. Again, that is commendable, but we also feel that a deliberate effort in creating a museum room that showcases Nigerian culture, approach, music, even foods or whatever, I think that will go a long way in enhancing that.
Okay, so my final question is this. For Nigerians in troubled zones,
Yes.
how do you coordinate their movement into safe spaces so that their lives are not cut short or they don't just lose everything they have built over the years? How do we coordinate that aspect of the diaspora?
All right. For the most part, for example, we're coming into Nigeria, we're engaging in Nigeria. Our confidence has actually been boosted just a couple of days ago when we had an engagement, and we can attest to the reality of the fact that security in Nigeria has improved 100%. Like that, there is no two ways about it. 2 days ago, one of our members said he was going to Kaduna and he's going to come back the same day. He traveled to Kaduna the same day and came back the same day by road, not by train. So that underscores the level of improvement that has been scored in terms of security. I've had a scenario where I had an emergency meeting somewhere around 12 a.m. I was able to move freely without fear or concern of any security related issue. And the reality always is, and the truth is, there is truth and there is a false narrative. Come to Nigeria, come and invest in Nigeria, come to Nigeria, come and do what you need to do. Because after all, home is home and nothing would ever replace it. So whatever you want to come and do as a diaspora, we are testament to the fact that it is a safe haven for you to come in and engage as peacefully as you can. And again, to continue to ignore the fact that the reality is every country you go around the world, there are pockets of troubles here and there, and we should be able to navigate that. But overall, I can say that yes, our environment right now is a safe haven, and we should come and enjoy it together.
Santi Bitrus, President, Zumunta Association USA Incorporated, I want to thank you so much for joining us on Insight, and thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on our focus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it on this week's episode of Insights. Do join us same time next week for more on the program. My name is Nnamdi Odipo.
And I'm Elizabeth Omori. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.